Hello, my friends. Thank you for joining me for another very exciting episode. I'm Kathy Rhodes, and this week we're going to think differently with my friend Chelyn Holub. Chelyn has been a friend of mine for, I think, 15 years. I don't remember exactly the year that we met, but I do remember how we met. We met on an airplane on our way to Denver, Colorado. So Chelyn has a fun laugh. You might hear it in this video. And her name alone is very different. So when I sat in my seat on this airplane, she sat across the aisle from me and we just started a conversation. And then she told me her name and I thought, gosh, I think I know you. We'd actually exchanged a few emails. You see, we were going to the same conference. We're both pampered chefers, and I had been emailing her at some point regarding a customer that we had in common. Just a few quick emails, but she was rememberable, and that just started our relationship. That just connected us for the past 15 years or so. Chelyn definitely thinks differently. Chelyn challenges me, not only when we were in direct selling together, in everything. In everything. We would do masterminds together. Those are book clubs on steroids. If you didn't participate in our latest mastermind a few episodes ago. But we did a lot of masterminds for many years. And she just thinks differently about everything. And she asks some really tough questions. So while I was talking to her the other day, I thought, you know what? I'm getting ready to move. I'm moving my home. I'm moving my business. I'm moving everything. Chelyn's done this 3 times. 3 times she's done this. I need to learn from her. So that's exactly what we talked about here in this episode. You're going to hear from her on what she did to think differently during her moves to move her business. Whether you're moving a direct selling company or not, through the conversation, you're going to hear us really dive into the idea of we need to constantly pretend like we're moving a business because we need to constantly be thinking differently. We need to think differently to be successful in life. That's no secret. But when it comes to things like business or careers or relationships, oh goodness, there is such a benefit to be thinking differently. And Chelyn is definitely one who does that. So enjoy this episode. Enjoy meeting my friend Chelyn. I can't wait to hear what you guys learn from our conversation together. Thank you, Chelyn, for joining me today. I'm very excited to hear from you. Thinking differently. You've moved your business through the years. We've had a similar business together, and now I'm moving my business. So I love picking your brain about things that you did or didn't do, or how you were thinking. So I just want to open the floor right away and ask, what were your thoughts? You've moved, tell us a little history, I guess. How many times have you moved your business?
Well, I started my business in Iowa and then I moved it to Wisconsin and then I moved it to Indiana.
How long were you in each state before you made the move?
In Iowa, I was there about a year. And then in Wisconsin, I think it was 6 years, if I remember correctly. And now I've been in Indiana for 10 years.
Oh, wow. You're like more of an Indianoan
Right?
than anybody else.
So
Okay,
true.
so talk to us a little bit. What you had started your business in Iowa before you guys made the move. What was your thought process as you were transitioning to a whole new state with continuing a business? And also share with us what happened to your business during the moves.
Yeah. When I first moved to Wisconsin, I didn't even, from what I remember, I don't even remember giving it a second thought because it is the kind of business you can just pick up and move. Now, this is before social media. So, so it was all relationship building. So the idea, and I had good relationships with people, which might be why I didn't feel the stress of moving my business as much as I think I did, maybe. I don't know. But when I reflect back on it, I don't really feel like I was very stressed out about moving my business. So I maintained those relationships while moving my business. But then, once you get to your new community, you need to build those relationships.
Okay, so you maintained your Iowa relationships and continued business even without social media. Were
Right.
you like traveling back and forth? Is that how you continued with business that way?
I did travel back and forth as needed, but eventually that did stop. But I still had those relationships that we were able to continue, even though I wasn't traveling back. And then as I built my business in Wisconsin, I was doing more and more Wisconsin business. And really thinking differently, I did things in Wisconsin that I never did in Iowa. So I really put myself out there to meet new people, to advertise my business in ways I'd never done before. Um, I went to like the local chamber, joined the local chamber, which I didn't belong to in Iowa. And it was like a small community chamber as opposed to a big city chamber. So I was able to really get into that and get to know people and build those relationships. Um, but yeah, so just really worked on meeting people in my community in ways that I had never before.
So for you, is that like something you enjoy doing, or was that a challenge?
Um, I mean, I'm a people person. I love talking to people. It's not really outside my comfort zone too hard to strike up a conversation with somebody. So, and really with my business, I could really strike up a conversation with anyone and kind of work it in as the conversation allowed. So, no, I think it was pretty comfortable for me. I was I was pretty okay with it.
That's awesome. Okay.
But like I'm trying to remember the different ways. There were definitely things that were outside my comfort zone that I did. And I'm trying to remember the different things that I did. I feel like I stood in front of like a grocery store and advertised myself. Now it was so long ago, I don't remember the specifics anymore, but I'm pretty sure I did something along those lines. And that was, I mean, I felt like I needed to do anything and everything that I had to do to get myself out there. And it wasn't even about like, was I comfortable? Was I not comfortable? It was something I had to do.
Yeah, it was a necessity to keep the business to get your name out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, did that same thing happen then when you went to Indiana? Because now you're also transitioning into social media world.
When we moved to Indiana, I was on social media. However, it still was pretty new. And so when I moved to Indiana, it was still a matter of me going back to Wisconsin, me sending things through the mail. I wasn't doing very much yet on social media. That really didn't happen until like I don't know, maybe 5 years later. I mean, it was quite a while before the social media really hit home and started doing my business on social media.
Okay, so you're a relationship person. You have no problem talking to people and connecting with people. You're moving a business, so you have a product, right, that you want to make sure people are aware that you offer. Do you feel like any of the transitions are more challenging in a certain state than another state, or is this no, it doesn't have to do with culture or different areas of the United States. It's all going back to relationship building. Is there anything there that you have to think differently about?
Well, definitely my move to Indiana and rebuilding my business was different than moving to Wisconsin and rebuilding my business. So, I will say both were fairly natural and easy for me to do. However, moving to Indiana, the Chamber of Commerce, I went, because I did the things in Indiana that I did in Wisconsin that I was happy and successful with. So joining that chamber in Wisconsin was great, but it was a small town chamber. So it wasn't thousands and thousands of dollars. And then B, it wasn't like a gazillion and a gazillion people. And C, it was something that really affected my business in Wisconsin because it was small. Now, when I went to go find the chamber in Indiana, I had to drive out to it a couple times because I couldn't find it. And it was not at the location that it said it was on, maps, and it was being housed somewhere different. And then it was like they had all these planned activities of, we're going to do this and then we're going to do this, and none of that really benefited me because I'm not a brick and mortar business. So it was just very different. Didn't end up joining the chamber. And even when I had a meeting with somebody at the chamber about it, I remember thinking or asking, is there not something smaller, like a different level? And there just wasn't. And part of it too is just the area that it encompassed. Like I said, it just so many more people. So and it was really downtown focused as well as brick and mortar focused. So it was a lot harder to do. Now, my small community that I live in, I don't know how small it is, but it's less than 5,000 people, I'm sure, has something that I found online, like a chamber. And I contacted it and I joined it, but they don't do anything. So they don't like nobody like takes responsibility for it and moves it along, like the chamber, the people on the, is it a board that they run on, I think. So like they don't do anything with it. So again, that was kind of like unsuccessful. um so yeah, so moving to Indiana was really more about really continuing my business in Wisconsin and Iowa, and building up, meeting people, and making those one-on-one connections.
So what I hear you saying is, I mean, thinking differently all the time. You can't repeat what works. Even if you stay in the same town, you can't repeat what worked last year because, a pandemic might happen or
Right.
or
Right.
whatever. We have to constantly be thinking differently. So how do you find the thing that's going to work to because you got to bring in business, right? You're moving the business, you need the finances, you need to recreate yourself. How do you find the thing that's going to work?
Oh, it's just continually trying things over and over and over, and then you'll find something that will work. It's about Googling. And nowadays, you have all these, I just was Googling this the other day, all these, I don't know exactly what they're called, like these little shared workspaces that
Yes.
downtown areas have, so it's a matter of, well, maybe I know a community in Iowa that has these shared workspaces, and like every Friday it's like $5 for non-brick and mortars to come in and do it. um so it's a matter of finding what is most relevant and new and trendy, and seeing where in your area, and if it's not happening, why not start it yourself, right?
Ooh,
So, I mean,
oh,
I'm not going to go out and rent a building, but, I could maybe start an online place where we share, and maybe with social media promote it to see if other businesses want to do it with me. So it really is more of that forward thinking, continuing to build those relationships with people. And really, people who have brick and mortar businesses, they really understand the idea of connecting with other businesses, even if they're competing businesses. Without having that brick and mortar, I feel like there's a false sense of competition, that doesn't necessarily have to exist. And you can still coexist and learn from one another without there being that competition.
wow, a false sense of competition. That's interesting. How do you push through that and kind of break down those barriers?
I think you just do it. I think you just partner with people that have the same thought. You can still find people who have those same thoughts as you, who believe in what you believe in. And then you just do it. I think there is that false sense of competition, in like a broader sense, but I think when you zoom in on the people who are really truly working a non-brick, they understand it is like a brick and mortar business. You just don't have the building.
That I get what you're saying. As a speaker and a trainer, there is a false sense of competition that happens with other speakers in the local area until you get to know them,
Right.
until you have a conversation, and you almost have this kindling, if I could call it that happens because you have the same passion. So you get geeky together and you find out, oh my gosh, I love you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have like a respect for these people, and it's a mutual respect, and it's not a competition. And the saying of, we're here to help support each other. We want everyone to succeed. Karma, what you put out there is what you get back. So definitely not a competition.
So true, so true. So, okay, within the pampered chef world, right, the direct selling world, I mean, there's that competition that happens when there's another consultant in that town or in that community of some sorts. And again, relationships. But I know when I was in that world, it was oftentimes we would get connected with people who have succeeded, and we want to pick their brain and we want to learn what they did and we want to replicate what they did, but we can't. And I never found success. I take little tidbits, but I still had to make it my own. And what I'm finding and what I'm hearing you say too is you couldn't even replicate what you did in one city when you moved to another.
Right. Right. So true. I was even thinking a step beyond though of finding another pampered chef person. Like if I'm a pampered chef, so why not find somebody else in a different direct sales business who's successful and team up with them and start a group together with them. So and I think that is what I'm thinking of really even more so than another pampered chef person in a terms of a false sense of competition, because I think that people think, I don't want to give my secrets away to a different company, you know what I mean, and have them be successful with it, or maybe even more successful at it than I am, but that's just, I don't feel like that necessarily is the case, because again, if you're both passionate about it and you're both putting things out there, you're both learning from one another, and you're finding out maybe one thing that works for a different business doesn't work for your business, who knows. But in regards to feeling competition with somebody within my business, I don't necessarily feel that way. Maybe it's a feeling that Pampered Chef as a whole puts out there, that you're not in competition with one another, or maybe it's
It's
the
almost,
fact that I'm confident that I work my business, so I don't feel in competition with somebody else.
and it's almost the culture that Pampered Chef
The
is
culture,
creating,
yes.
right?
That's what
Yeah,
I was thinking of.
they are
It is the
encouraging
culture for sure.
sharing. I've seen people, and I've heard people, very successful people, share every secret they have, and nobody else has the same success that they have
Right,
because
right,
we have to tweak it to us and to wherever we're at and our customers, and you can't just take something and replicate it.
right. Absolutely. I was thinking about, besides looking at like shared office spaces, something else that is really common for businesses to be doing, brick and mortar businesses, maybe a gals day out. So, and I can see any kind of business doing this, not just a direct sales business, like calling and asking if they do, like, think about women empowerment and that you want to help the women in your community and you want to offer them these different services. And so maybe you get other businesses that are ran by women all together in this business to promote themselves to the shoppers. I mean, there's just so much forward thinking that you can think of once you like get your wheels turning.
Right, right. And I can't help but think too that I wonder if it already kind of exists. And if you get your wheels thinking, you Google the right words, you find something that'll start to connect that vision together.
Absolutely. And if you have some like local coffee shop or some local ice cream place, more than likely, or even like a winery, more than likely they are looking to get more people into their business, and they want to partner with people who are forward thinking and who are thinking on how can we help our community more? How can we give back to our community more? So for sure.
Okay, so let's talk about your biggest strength, and that's relationship building. You were okay, so we met on an airplane on the way to Denver to a conference together, and we have been connected ever since, right? That
Yes.
just proves your amazing ability to connect in relationships. When you move into a new community, you really got to put yourself out there. How do you self-talk? How do you think differently to jump into kind of a scary environment, especially if you're somebody like me that I can do this relationship building, but it's not as easy as it is for you.
Somebody who has a hard time with relationship building, how do you think differently? I think that listening to a podcast, listen to Thinking Differently with Kathy Rhodes. No, I think listening to different people speak about things that make you feel good. Put on pumped up music that make, like when you exercise, that makes you feel good. You know, when you need to go do something that's out of your comfort zone, you have to pump yourself up with a little bit of adrenaline. So however you would normally do that, I would suggest do it. And I don't even believe in practicing, because most people practice in their heads, first of all. And when you practice in your head, it does not come out of the mouth the way it should.
Yeah, I agree.
So if somebody's going to practice maybe one or two lines, not a whole thing, you know, you have to say it out loud. You just have to, because it comes out so differently than in your brain. But if you need to practice, have, like, I call it a lead line, have one or two lead lines that are going to get you going, but then pump yourself up before you go do it.
Okay, does this include like caffeine or chocolate or
Ice cream, whatever makes you you, it gives you that adrenaline.
that's good. I never think of that. I never kind of, I guess to be honest, I don't even analyze myself to, what music do I listen to? Usually when I'm driving to something, I turn the music off because I'm thinking and I'm rehearsing in my head. But I love that you said it has to come out of your mouth because it's different than when it's processing up here. So
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. So there was a training that I heard years and years and years ago where you have to pick up the phone call to talk to people, or the phone to like make phone calls. And this trainer said, when I make a phone call, I put myself in a happy place. I'm not sitting in my office being all officey. I have a water fountain in my house with some pillows thrown by it. I pour myself a glass of wine. I take a sip of it. I sit on my pillows, and then I make the phone call. And especially, no matter what your business is, that is how you relationship build. It's not about sounding like you're the business, the bank down the street calling somebody, unless you're a bank. But if you're in a business where you have to build relationships, you have to learn how to be relaxed. You have to learn how to be you and authentic, and not that business person that you think you need to be, or that maybe you strived to be when you first got into it.
Wow, that's good. The world has changed as well that, I mean, even the clothing that professionals wear is more relaxed and
Right.
their words that they choose are not as pretentious as the words.
Pretentious is such a good word. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So that might be easier in our world today. But yeah, like I said earlier, what I hear you saying though is we have to always be thinking differently about our business. We have to always pretend like we're moving into a new community because otherwise we do the same old, and suddenly we have no business. It just disappears.
Mhm.
Nobody's interested in it anymore.
Yeah, you can't allow yourself to get stagnant, which is definitely a ongoing thing as well. But you're right, you do. You have to continually kind of think outside the box, and maybe just Google, quarterly, business ventures, business ideas, new business things going on in my community.
Okay, so your next move, which state are you going to go to?
I don't know. Maybe I would like to say maybe Hawaii.
Well, that would be definitely a different thought process that has to
Right.
happen.
Right.
All right, for anybody then that is starting a business or moving a business or wanting to recreate a business, what would be the number one recommendation that you would recommend they start with?
I would say find a group of like-minded people in your community and join them. And I don't mean, again, like thousands of people, but something smaller and intimate, so that you make some friends right away, and then you just learn from them what happens in that community, and you branch out further from there.
That's good. That's good. It kind of makes me nervous a little bit. I mean, I'm on the verge of doing this and it just makes me nervous, but it's a nervous excitement
Yeah.
that's, oh, how fun. I mean, who knows what's going to happen and what you're going to find. And that little group might not be the right group, but at least you're starting to figure out where the right group is.
Absolutely. And I have a little group that I'm still on Facebook with in a group that wasn't the right group, but I learned from them and I branched out from there. So, and that's going to happen and you just have to keep moving forward. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Thank you for letting me pick your brain. I'm so
Yes.
glad though that you and I stay connected because I pick your brain every single time that we talk.
Well, I say mutually, totally. And good luck with your move. I know you don't need it. You will do wonderfully.
You're awesome. You're awesome. So as people listen to this podcast episode, how can people connect with you?
Well, they can certainly shoot me a text if they'd like to at 260-214-5633, or they can find me online. I am Chelyn Holub. I have my personal wall on Facebook that they can join. I have a community they can join. I am on TikTok and Instagram and all the good social medias. I
It
have
is so good.
a website with a catalog. It's all out there.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for brain dumping a little bit and sharing your tips and secrets. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.